Can I come back to you, Dr. Weinreb, just to talk about supporting healthcare professionals? What needs to be done to support healthcare professionals to effectively meet the needs of Gaucher patients? We've talked about maybe some gaps in information, and we talked right at the very start in terms of the care pathway, but what support do you think healthcare professionals specifically need?
Primarily education is the key. And I think, as Jeff mentioned, not every healthcare professional, again, follows new developments as closely as perhaps those of us who are intensely interested in a field where this is amenable. But I think that, so in the end, personal communication is still the best thing. To the extent that the industry has been able to have contacts with practitioners and actually meet them face to face and take some time to speak to them, I think that is the most effective type of education available. That's so I really encourage, in the past in Gaucher disease, we have had, and I think I've benefited personally even from some of the trained individuals who work for companies and who do give and who are equipped to give balanced, fair educational presentations. And then, of course, using colleagues who have experience as well. But then the problem again is access. How do you reach very busy doctors who are being assaulted with multiple things, including many, many new drugs at an amazing rate? So how do you actually get into the door? And that's, and I think, again, we need the people like myself and my colleagues who are very interested in Gaucher disease. I think, we need to go out and make ourselves visible in colleagues in our area and otherwise. We did that. That was one of the reasons that the International Gaucher Registry started out. When we became what we called coordinators at that time, one of our jobs was to try to actively speak to practitioners in the area and get them acquainted with both the need to diagnose Gaucher disease and the potential for treatment. And I think we need to do that with gene therapy as well. Unfortunately, now we're
a real partnership, doesn't it, between industry and the patient groups and yourself, as medical professionals, to really get that robust education so that everybody really is moving on this journey together. I want to come and finish with you, Cindy, if I can. I think we've talked a little bit really about what the hopes of the future are for the Gaucher community, but can you just kind of wrap up to me what these evolutions and treatments mean to you as a community in terms of reducing that burden? We started off talking about what that burden is, but where do you see this taking the community in the future, and what are the hopes for that?
I think Gaucher disease is a rare disease. There's how many thousands of people in the world that have it, and we're so incredibly fortunate to have all this research, to have people interested. Above and beyond the medical experts, Neil Weinreb and every Gaucher doctor give so much care and attention to support the patient community. It's overwhelming. And so although there's this horrible disease, I think we all feel incredibly lucky to have this attention, to have this research, and to have the potential of gene therapy. I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime, especially after what happened 25 years ago and there was no success. So, and patients are sometimes a little apprehensive to be in a trial. That's an incredibly personal thing. Every individual is going to react differently to something like that. And I think the willingness to be in a trial depends on what's already available for you. But yeah, as a whole, we're just, so many good things are happening, especially treatments for type 2 and 3. I think most people just remain in an incredibly just grateful phase right now to see what's to come.
Thank you. I think that's a really lovely way to end. And I think it's so hope-inducing, isn't it? Because it's such a fast-paced industry at the moment. And even for many, many diseases a few years ago, the thought of a cure or treatments or, seemed like sort of science fiction. And already, almost daily, we're seeing new breakthroughs, it gives us so much hope and so much promise. And, what we can't forget is that the end of all of this really exciting stuff are the individual families, the mums, the dads, the kids back at home, for which this is really life-changing, every development that's made. So I really appreciate you bringing it back to that, Cindy. Thank you so much. So I'm just looking at time. I think we're going to have to wrap up now, but what I'd say is Becky will be capturing any questions that we've had. So what I'll do is I'll come back to you to get those answered so we can feed that back to those that are attending, just so that we can be really respectful of the time and keep within the hour. So I'd just like to say a really big thank you to our panelists today. It's been a really interesting conversation, certainly very inspirational, motivational. I think we can all go away feeling that, exciting things are happening, and just what we all need to do to plug that gap on information. So thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you very much to Dr. Weinreb, and of course a big thank you to Prevail Therapeutics for facilitating this conversation and letting us have this conversation across our channels. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for listening and for bringing those questions, which we will respond to afterwards. Please do feel free to reach out. We'll put some contact details up at the end as we close. But yeah, just a great thank you to everyone, and look forward to seeing where this all goes. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.